Is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?
So the prophecy says.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
It's time for some good old Jedi prophesizing.
How you get so big into food of this kind?
It occurred to me that I've been talking a lot about balance of the Force, but I have not talked a lot about the Chosen One prophecy itself. So today I want to get into that and some origins and where it came from and what it means and all of that stuff. I also want to talk about something else I haven't really mentioned, which is what makes the Force unbalanced. I've been talking about how to balance it, but what are we balancing it from exactly? And to get into that, I'm actually going to need to talk about some Legends material, because at the time when I came up with this theory that I have, Legends was still canon. So I'm going to take you through it, even though it is Legends, it is technically non-canon now, just so you can kind of see what my thought process was, and then when that's done, I'm going to look at what current canon says and how my theory still kind of works, even though things are different. Or at least I like to think that it still works. Please understand that this video is an installment, several segments into an ongoing series, so if you would, please click on the thing and it'll take you back to the beginning of the series, and hopefully my thoughts will make a little bit more sense and have a little bit more context. Also, as a general disclaimer, the notion of what the Chosen One prophecy is and its actual origin and all of this stuff is actually really vague in both canon and in Legends. It's a thing that's been talked about a lot, but the Mortis trilogy is really the thing that tacked it down the most. So if you ever come across a video where somebody's like, I know exactly what the Chosen One prophecy is, no they don't. They don't at all. Like, we have the lines from the movies, which I'll talk about, we have the Mortis trilogy, which I'll talk about, and we have speculation. And that's it. So there's reason why you might be thinking to yourself, I don't really know what the Chosen One prophecy is, and that reason is, no one does. But that said, I think I have a pretty good guess, and I'm hoping you enjoy my guess. If you ask a Jedi, they will tell you that the Chosen One prophecy says to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Naturally, a Jedi would tell you that destroying the Sith means conquering the dark side. Now, if you watch my other videos, then you know that I don't necessarily think this is the case. Remember, everything we've been told about the Force within the Star Wars films has come from highly biased individuals. We have the Jedi who follow the way of the light and the Sith who follow the way of the dark. Of course, they're going to frame their understanding of the Force and visions of the Force and understanding of the Force through their lens of what they believe to be right. So yeah, the Jedi would think that balancing the Force means destroying the Sith. Why wouldn't they? We don't necessarily know if destroying the Sith is a thing that the Jedi added on in there, or if it's an actual part of the prophecy. I have my guess, and I will get to that. But it's important to remember, we only hear the Jedi talking about this prophecy, and it's possible that their own certain point of view has clouded it. I mean, you saw the clip that I played at the beginning of this video. Yoda talks about how they could have misread the prophecy. And yeah, a lot of people take that line to mean that maybe Anakin wasn't the Chosen One, but he's not talking about misreading Anakin. He's talking about misreading the prophecy, right? So this is a Yoda who's post-trials of the Lost missions from Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is a Yoda who has come to a greater understanding of the Force. This is a Yoda who would understand that they may have misread the prophecy. So here's what we know for a fact. The Chosen One will bring balance to the Force. We get this from the films, but we also get it from the Mortis trilogy. It's point blank stated in the episodes. Now, the Anchorites are not affiliated with a side of the Force. Yes, the son and the daughter are the incarnate versions of a side of the Force, but they aren't saying that one side is evil and must be destroyed. They believe in balance. While I'm sure they have a bias in some way, their lack of affiliation makes them far more credible than the Jedi on the nature of this prophecy. I think it's interesting to note that it's the Jedi who talk about this prophecy and not the Sith. The Jedi talk about it all of the time. The Anchorites talk about it all of the time. The Sith don't talk about the Chosen One prophecy. I think this is really important, but the question is, important how? And then, of course, the other half of the prophecy is destroy the Sith, right? I think it's interesting that it's destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force, not bring balance to the Force by destroying the Sith, or destroying the Sith and therefore balancing the Force. I think that and also might be kind of important, but that also could just be semantics. I've already talked about in a past video how the selfish and selfless nature of the dark and the light could just be poetic license and saying things in a nice way, so it's also possible that this is just being said in a nice way. What we have is a prophecy acknowledged by the Jedi and the neutral Anchorites, but ignored by the Sith, and that prophecy says the Sith need to be destroyed. To me, I think I'll go with the Jedi on this. In the Mortis episodes, it's the son who's unbalanced. Yes, the daughter makes mistakes and doesn't handle the situation all too well and kind of causes her own demise in a way, but she's not the one causing the problems. Remember, I said the Jedi allowed evil to grow and so lost their way. But that is different than being evil themselves. Yeah, looking the other way, causing evil to grow isn't great and doesn't make you a hero and does involve you contributing to the problem, but it's different than being the problem. In the Mortis episodes, it's the son that's going haywire. It's the son that's unbalanced. It's the dark side that seems to be at issue here. So if the dark side is what's unbalanced, and therefore the Force is unbalanced, what caused that? Maybe it's the Sith. Alright, Legends time. Understand that the following isn't canon anymore, but it was canon at the time that I came up with this. So that doesn't mean what I'm about to say is right, but I don't think that the changes in canon necessarily make it wrong. It'll make more sense as I go, but I think the core idea here might be correct. Back in the old days, there was a prophecy for a being called the Sithari. The Sithari would be a being who basically destroys the Sith, but causes them to be reborn anew in a more powerful, better state of being. This prophecy came out of the Knights of the Old Republic game, and for a while it was a bit of a debate on who it could be, but it ultimately settled on the Sith, Darth Bane. In Darth Bane's day, there were thousands of Sith, and he tricked them all into dying in a trap. Only Bane survived. He then rebuilt the Sith in the rule of two, one master and one apprentice. Now the sole existence of the Sith was to destroy one another, to hoard knowledge, and to live in constant awareness that you're gonna die by the hand of your partner. Either the master would kill the apprentice because the apprentice wasn't worthy, or the apprentice would rise and kill the master. Basically, if you're a Sith master, you were training your own executioner. So what happened was the Sith Order changed from being about all of these thousands of Darkside followers to being about two people hoarding all of the power of the dark side for just them. That's a massive concentration of power in two beings. You had to share your knowledge because you had to teach someone, but you also had to keep enough for yourself so that they didn't kill you yet. So the Sith had their Sithari and the Jedi had their Chosen One. One prophecy came and went, so did another. No, I don't actually know how old the Chosen One prophecy is, or if there's even a Sithari prophecy anymore, but it doesn't really matter. Even if the Chosen One prophecy predates the existence of the Rule of Two, when prophecies and futures are involved, there really isn't a limit on how far ahead you can see something. So where does that leave my theory? Well, Darth Bane is still canon, and the Rule of Two comes from the Phantom Menace, so all of that is still on the up and up. Not to mention the decor in Palpatine's office depicts a war where there was a lot more than two Sith involved, so clearly there used to be a lot of Sith. Also, the Jedi were really kind of blind, weren't they? So the notion of Bane corrupting the Sith into something unbalanced could still be canon, or at least there's enough of the old story where I'm still satisfied. That said, the new canon provides us with something interesting. The Prime Jedi. This is a person we know very, very little about. It seems to be the first Jedi of the Jedi Order. This being is depicted on the Temple in Ahch-To, seen in The Last Jedi, as well as supplemental books for The Last Jedi. But what's interesting about this image? What do you see? Dark and light. Balance. What if the Jedi understood balance back when they began? What if they collectively fell to the light side and thus fell away from a true understanding of the Force? If the origins of the Sith are anything like they used to be, then what happened was there was a schism. There were Darksiders who didn't want to be Jedi anymore, and they left and became evil, basically. And it's possible that could still be the Sith origins. At least right now, there's no reason for new canon to have overwritten that. I could spin the speculation wheels for a while, keep it right on going, but it's really going to be a wasted exercise until we eventually learn more about these origins again. But for now, what I'm trying to get across is that this Rule of Two within the Sith was toxic to the balance of the Force. So if the Jedi fell away from the light side, are they in the Chosen One prophecy? Maybe that's really the best answer I have right now. It could be that the Jedi edited themselves out of the prophecy because of their bias. It could be that the Jedi back in the day were balanced servants of the Force and therefore wouldn't have been a part of the prophecy, and the prophecy just hasn't been updated since the Jedi kind of fell to the light side. Therefore, they really wouldn't be in the prophecy yet. I think what's more likely is that while the Jedi are not fully correct, they aren't affecting the Force on a large-scale cosmic level. That they aren't affecting balance in a grand scheme of things sort of way. If everyone had to be balanced all of the time, anytime a person hurt someone else selfishly or out of a need of not wanting to cause harm became passive and didn't step in to help someone, the Force would be out of balance every 5 minutes. There's a certain degree of mortals can't always get it right. For lack of a better phrase, the Jedi were only human. So while they definitely were at least partially at fault for what happened to the galaxy, and certainly at fault in a lot of ways for their own failing, they were at fault for just being mortal. It was the Sith that were actually committing evil. Thus, Anakin needed to destroy the Sith, as the Father had to take away power from the Son. Now, that opens a whole other can of worms as to whether or not the Mortis episodes happened the way they did because that's how Destiny said they had to go, or if they happened the way they did because they saw the future and knew that's how it was gonna go. And there's just no way I can answer that right now, and I don't think it's something that the powers that be ever really want to answer for us. But the important note in that kind of conundrum in that question is it's all about the Sith and the destruction of the Sith. Nowhere in any of this is it talking about the destruction of the Jedi. So again, what I'm trying to say is where the Jedi had failing, where they didn't have a complete view of the Force, where they fell away from their own teachings, where they were so afraid that they didn't act and they fell into violence and they caused a war. All of these things were just normal person failings and not let's disrupt the cosmic balance of stuff kind of problems. Therefore, I don't think the Jedi were in the prophecy. It was the Sith that were actively going against the balance of the Force. Not only were they serving just the dark side, they were serving just the dark side for this very small group of people. They were hoarding it to an extent that the understanding of the dark side wasn't being spread to more people, as strange as that sounds. The other really good thing that this does for me, again, this is all speculation, but a reason why it works for me, I don't like the idea that Anakin was fated to fall to the dark side. I don't like the idea that Anakin had to become a Sith, because then that justifies all the murder that he commits in Revenge of the Sith. When Anakin slaughters the younglings and kills Jedi and goes on to be Vader and does all these horrible acts, well, it becomes justified if he had to do it so he could one day destroy the Sith from within. And I think that robs Anakin and Vader's story so much from its emotion if he had to fall. However, if all he had to do was destroy the Sith and the Jedi were this whole other thing, then he was still an evil guy who still had to come back from being evil. He had a choice. Anakin chose the dark side, fell to evil, and did all of these terrible things. And so this is a way for me to rectify the idea that the Sith were what put the Force out of balance and that they needed to be destroyed to put things back into place, but also still give Anakin free will, because that's important to me and my emotional attachment to the story. Again, I fully recognize that a lot of this is speculation, but as it is, this video is getting way too long. If you would like me to elaborate on any of this further, if something I said didn't make sense, if something I said it just sounds really contradictory, or you just kind of want to know more, if it feels like I just glossed over something, you want me to back something up more, let me know in the comments. I don't know that I'm planning to come back to this issue unless it seems like people want to know more about what I have to say. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to keep continuing on with the series. But I know I kind of hit a lot of points in one video. So please, leave a comment, let me know. I love talking to you guys in the comments. As always, please follow us at Port Haven Forums on Twitter. You can get all kinds of updates on how the videos are doing, if I'm keeping up with the schedule, that sort of stuff. Announcements about our streamcast, just all of that. Visit port-haven.com, where we have content that doesn't even make it to the YouTube channel, and we'd love to see you there. And as always, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun.